When I first started to get into investment property, I thought it was all about going big. I'd been reading books like Steve McKnight's 0 to 130 Properties in 3.5 years. I was reading Margaret Lomas's stuff like 10 properties in 10 years because they were the only resources available at that time. But I can tell you right now that the entire property investment world has changed so dramatically since those books were written that they're almost no longer relevant. So in this video, I'm going to explain where the current market's at and where things are heading in the future so that you can look at a strategy of owning a couple of great properties versus having this pressure to own this huge portfolio that's highly risky, highly leveraged, and doesn't get you any closer to the things that are actually important to you. G'day there, my name's Ben Everingham. I'm the director here at Pumped on Property. Now in today's video, I'm going to talk about quality over quantity. Now, this is based on my experiences from going down the quantity route first. I bought 12 properties in the first 10 years of my investment journey. Thank gosh I don't own them all now because that sounds like a massive headache to me. But the reason I accumulated so many properties was because I didn't have a clear plan in place and I didn't know or understand what I understand today. So I went down that rabbit hole because there weren't videos like this explaining completely different approach to investing. Now, when we're talking about quality properties, what I've realized is that for me personally, I would much prefer to own a number of quality houses. In my case, 3, maybe 4 houses completely outright, giving me a passive income stream of around about $200,000 per annum from the rental return, than owning 10 or 20 properties down here that provide me with the same amount of income but that are all negatively geared and that aren't getting me any closer to where I really want to be. And where I want to be personally is choices in my life. I want the choice to spend more time with the people that I care about, doing work that I enjoy, or starting businesses that I enjoy, investing money, having time to drop the kids at school, pick them up, take them to gymnastics or swimming, go away in our caravan, surf on the weekends with my mates, work normal business hours, and have choices in the future on exactly how I spend my time. Now, the way that I was raised and the way that a lot of people still talk about property in Australia is the more properties you own, the better. And I talk to investors every single day and every single week that say they want to own 5, 10, 15, 20 properties. And I say, why? What is it that you truly want? And they say, well, I'm interested in a 50 grand or $100,000 a year passive income stream. And I say, well, a 50 grand income stream could just be one really high quality property that produces 2 incomes, or 100K could be a couple of quality assets that produce really strong income. You know, the whole way of thinking about this stuff is different because some things have changed in my life now that I've orientated towards this quality approach over quantity. 1, I have 3 young children now, so I have to look after them. 2, I understand enough about history and the real estate cycle to know that it is extremely, extremely dangerous to go out there and leverage, to borrow heaps and heaps of money from the banks and to hope that interest rates are always going to be low, or that you're always going to have a job, or that your business is going to do well, because whether we like it or not, wages aren't growing like they were in the past, and the future looks a little bit more stable in a lot of ways, but more unstable in other ways moving forward. I also realized that after spending so many years chasing money, that achieving more money, achieving more goals, you know, buying more investment properties really had more to do with ego than it had to do with actually me feeling like a fully fulfilled person living my values on a day-to-day basis. Now, there's nothing wrong with going down the quality route, but I challenge you as to why you want to do it. You know, why does it matter if you own 10 properties or 20 properties or 200 properties like some of the big boys in Australia talk about, versus, you know, owning a number of smaller assets that produce the same amount of income that you can own outright in maybe 10, 15, 20 years, rather than going down this route, really leveraging, putting yourself on the line, having to go to work every single week. you know, for the next 30 years just to make it work. Now, I'll talk about two different examples here. I've got a client named Dave from Sydney. Now, Dave has never earned more than $130,000 per year in his life. He's always worked for somebody else. Now, slowly over the last 25 years, Dave has bought 4 properties. I helped him just buy his 4th property in Brisbane, and he's built 4 granny flats on those 4 properties. Now, Dave picked up 3 of these properties in Sydney between 15 and 25 years ago. At the time, he was buying the houses for between 300 and 500 grand and adding these little granny flats on them. All of these properties are now worth over $1 to $1.3 million and all rent for over $1,000 per week. So Dave is getting this passive income stream of over 200K per annum. He owns 4 houses, 4 granny flats, giving him 8 incomes, and he's built it slowly and sustainable over the course of his life, earning $130,000 per year. Now, I talked to another bloke recently, Steve from Sydney. Now, Steve was working for someone else, and he owned 10 properties that he'd slowly accumulated as well over the last 25 years. Now, Steve was earning better money. He was earning 200K, and Steve was completely stressed out. He hated his job. It was literally making him sick, but he owned these 10 properties, and he'd accumulated these properties over a 25-year period as well. And I said to Steve, Steve, what's your goal? And he said, Ben, I want to be financially free. And I said, well, Steve, you already are. Now, Steve had about $3.5 to $4 million worth of equity. So he was a multi-millionaire, but Steve was tied from an ego perspective to owning 10 properties, and he liked the idea of all of that paper money that he had, which was the equity on his portfolio. Now, this was last year, so Steve's probably lost 10% since then, which means his position has gone down 300K in the last 12 months. Maybe in the next few years it'll be up 300K. Like, that's the market, obviously, and things go up and they go down. But Steve hated his work. He owned 10 properties. If he had have sold half of his properties, yes, he would have only owned 5, but he would have basically owned all 5 of those properties completely outright. He could cut back at work. He could do something that he enjoys more. He could start a business, which he said he'd always wanted to start. But he felt completely tied to these properties because even though he had great equity in them and had been slowly accumulating them for a long time, they were highly negatively geared, costing him over $80,000 a year to hold, which meant he had to go to this high pressure, ridiculous job to just try and make the income. Now, like I said, Dave's position was over $200,000 per year in income. Steve's position from his portfolio was minus $100,000 per year in income. Steve had more equity on paper, but Dave had freedom. He was doing work that he enjoyed, and it completely blew my mind. Now, we'd already created, or Ryan from On Property had created, this 2 properties to financial freedom strategy that we talk about, which is effectively owning 2 houses and 2 granny flats. Because I have 3 young children and because I want a higher quality of life in the future with more discretionary income to travel and do caravanning with and stuff, I want 4 houses with 4 granny flats, but that's just my personal goal. So regardless of where you're at, I suppose the purpose of today's video is to recognize that you could be Dave or you could be Steve, but either way, you need to be happy and you need to enjoy the journey. Now, when I suggested to Steve that he sell some of those properties, his ego immediately flared up and he said, but Ben, I won't be worth as much. And I said, Steve, you'll be able to do whatever the hell you want to do for the rest of your life if you make this decision. I spoke to him again. 14 months later, he booked another strategy session earlier this year. Nothing had changed. He was still completely miserable in his job. And to me, success looks like a hell of a lot of a different thing than money on paper or a nice car or being able to tell people that you own 10 properties. For me, success looks like living your values, getting to spend time with your family, doing the things that you love, and having choices for your future. So if you're just getting started out, I highly recommend a quality over quantity approach. I think people in this quantity approach get caught up in it emotionally. They are also people that get very, very stuck if they lose their incomes, or if the market turns or interest rates rise, or if all of a sudden property values decline, which they do at different times of the cycle. So whether you're going for quality or quantity, for me personally, I'm a massive quality investor. As soon as I understood this, I've actually sold 4 properties in the last 3 years and replaced them with some better quality assets that give me great cash flow, great long-term potential for growth, and hopefully will set me up for a better future as well as a much better now, because I just don't feel the stress anymore from those properties that were negatively geared, that were sitting there in the hope that someday in the future I'd make some money on them. So if you're in this stage where you either have an existing portfolio and you're like, I don't know what to do from here, I don't know how to turn this equity into cash flow and get choices in my life, or you're a blank canvas and you're just getting started and you haven't made all the massive mistakes that I have personally, I'd love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. Please jump over to www.pumpedonproperty.com, book in a free strategy session with me, and let's talk a bit about where you are, where you want to go. Let's talk about the market and your plans. You can get my ideas and take them with a grain of salt, and then you can go and implement them on your own, or you might be able to become one of the 7 clients we take on per month as a business. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your time. Go for quality, man. Like, get some lifestyle sooner in life. The thing about life is we all get older, and while we might be in great health now, the reality is when I'm 70 or 80, I might not be in as great a shape or have the same energy that I do today. So for me, buying quality assets that give me income and a passive income stream much earlier in life is so important to me, so that I can spend the time doing the things that I enjoy, contributing the world the way that I want to, and spending time with my kids while they're young enough for me to have a meaningful impact in their life and they still want to hang with me is so important. So if you haven't already done so, give us a thumbs up on this video. Please subscribe to the channel. And if you're thinking about buying something in the next 12 months, please book a strategy session. I wish you all the best.